Today we are going to continue Murder of the Sphinx. There's the beginning of the story. Now this had templates, so let me explain how I did my templates because I'm not showing you how to cut it out. It comes on the paper and it is a template B that looks like that and a template A that looks like this. First thing I did was I went ahead and made a copy of the page that I printed out because you don't want to use your original. Then I took the back, and this is a piece of cardboard, and it's what comes in the back of the 10-inch pre-cut fabrics. I traced the paper on it and cut it out like that. Now, based on the comments on Facebook, I already know that this will be oversized. Okay, so no problem there. We will be cutting it down. It's going to take 4 colors. Like that there. There's my 4 colors. And I've got them laid out here by the sewing machine. So here are the colors. So that's a color, that one, and that one. I really love that color, but I just didn't have very much fabric, so I'm using the Tell-It-It on this project. I think it's adorable. And this is called Desert Flower. I do not know what kind of flower it is. And it's block 3. So let's start piecing it. So normally, let me show you how I lay it out. So I usually start here at the top and go from left to right, left to right. And so on this board here, I put the left one. So this is my H2, this is my A1, this is my G4, and this is my H1. This way, it's a lot easier for me to keep it straight without having to mark it all up, and then my marks will fall off, and then I've got to figure out what went to what, and just from practice and doing it, that's how I've decided to do it, so it's so much easier for me. So we're going to start out with our 3.5-inch squares, which we only have one set in this color, and they want us to put them together with these, and then we're done with that. We're going to take this rectangle, and we're going to attach it. All right, so let's do that, and we're going to pin that first. So there are 2 of these. Now there's 3 yellow squares. So you're only doing 2 because we only have 2 of this H2 to go with the G4, which is the yellow. And we'll leave the other square set aside right now. So first we're going to do this to sew. Now I went ahead and I'm switching to white thread top and bottom, and this is that white spool that's got an issue. So hopefully it doesn't break on me. If it does, I'll just change it out. And I'm going to use a 2 for my length, doing it a 1/4 inch. And I think this is a pretty easy block, just from the layout and everything that I see. And we're going to chain stitch this. Put an iron to it, and don't forget you want to relax your seams. Went ahead and I pinned the rectangle onto those 2, and I'm going to sew them together. And it said to go ahead and take your fabric and you're going to iron it just to one side. It's not telling you which to do it to. I did it to the dark side. If it doesn't give you a choice, that's what I always do. Unless I feel like it's too bulky and it has to be split in half. Which isn't usually that often. That's usually pinwheels. Iron these open. You'll have 2 of them. 2 like that, and I believe they measure 6.5 by 6.5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Okay. Now don't forget to do this one. Remember we had 1 left over? Well, we had 1 in the different color, and one rectangle in the different color. So these go together. Set it aside with your other two, and then we're going to start the ones with the curves, which a lot of people feel it's hard, but let's make it easy today. The goal is to get it to look like that when you're done. Fold it right here and put a crease, and fold it right here and put a crease, because we want to match these to start out with the right sides together, and you pin it right here in the middle. Now I went in and I put 2 to the left. Now keep in mind, this is the bias, so see how it stretches there? And then what I do is I take it, and if you slowly go around the corner, and what I do is I take my finger and push up to make it a curve. So it's kind of curving over my finger like this. Okay? Instead of being straight, it's curved over my finger, which gives it that little bit of, I guess, a curvature to it. So it's easier. Instead of just taking it like this, because right here, put my camera a little bit here. Okay. So instead of just going across it like this and trying to do it, that's too hard. So I take my finger, hold it on the back side of my blue fabric, take this up to the edge and curve it like that. And then I put my pen in it. Just be sure not get your finger. If you feel like you need to put a thimble on that finger, that's fine. And then I curve it again, just like that, before I put another pin in it. Same thing, curve it a little bit before I put a pin in it. Back of my finger off so I don't stick myself. Curve it again, just like that. I'm going to show the other side when I get done here so you can have an idea what it looks like too. Because you don't want your top fabric going way over the top of your other fabric. And be careful so that you don't accidentally stretch the top or this piece here, because it'll go way beyond your bottom piece. And then I'll go to the end down here. And I'm going to match up these ends right here. So, see how it matches that right there? Everybody see that right there? And if you feel comfortable, I'm going to put a pin the other direction. I'll show you here, because I can always take it out. Go this way. Put my pin this direction, just like that. Come back, curve it over. I'm going to take this one out, curve it back over my finger, just like before, and put the pin in right there. Okay, let me back it up a little bit so y'all can see it. And it looks just like that. Okay, and then this, of course, is going to be a little bit sticking up, but that's fine. Then I'm going to go back to the left and do the same exact thing. Every one of these has got to be done like that. This is your remaining pieces. Alrighty? So just take your time. Now keep in mind, and let me show you here, just for those that are just now joining and hasn't seen this in another video. When you put your pin in, if you put your pin straight in and you bend it, you have pulled your top. I'm not even in the frame. Here we go. Let me start over. If you take your fabric and you've got it lined up, which you can see it right here, and you take your needle and you go straight in and bend it and pin it, you've pulled this fabric here over the top of the back fabric. So you don't want to do that. You want to line it up so that it's right there on that edge like it belongs. Then take your pin in sideways like that, and it lines up. Because if you're going to put your pin in like this, straight in and curve it, then you're going to want your fabric down a little bit off of the back fabric. Let me see if I can do it for you here. Okay, so see how you can see this fabric here? If I go straight down and bend it, look what it did. See that? So if you're one of the people that have to go straight down, maybe because your hands do it, or you're used to it, or you can't do it another way, okay? And you're not used to it. That's fine. Just make sure that this fabric here on the top is lower than the back so that you can see a little bit of the back when you do it. Because I know a lot of people say, well, my fabric doesn't line up. I don't understand. Well, this is why. By the way that you pin it. but I'm used to doing it the way I'm doing it here, so that's why I'm doing it that way. So go ahead and finish pinning, and you're going to end up if you're going by this pattern, all the curves, these top ones, are all going to be this color. When it comes to this fabric here, you have 3 of these, and you have 3 of this other color. At least I think I got 3 colors. Or is it 2? 2 of them. And then everything else will be this color, the squares. So go ahead and finish that up, and then when I get done pinning all of mine, I'm going to come back and show you how to sew it. Kind of backpedaling, I went ahead and I pinned another one. I pinned it the opposite direction. It worked out. So now I'm coming back to show you. This is the one that I pinned on the video, and I turned around, I pinned it on this side. I just went and repinned to this side because it's easier to watch my 1/4 of an inch on this side of fabric since this is smaller. Let me back up the camera a little bit here. Alrighty, so since this fabric is smaller than this one, it's easier to be watching my 1/4 inch here. Now when I'm totally finished, I went ahead and I took this block, matched it up to the only square ones that I have. Remember now, they're supposed to be 6.5 by 6.5. The first set of blocks we made, they were 6.5 by 6.5. But this one ends up being bigger. So then I'm going to show you how I cut it down to match that other one. It's so confusing to tell you. Let me just show y'all. First, let's go ahead and sew this. Now, I couldn't pin them all because I've only got so many pins. So once I pinned 2, I was totally out of pins. I was down to, I think I had 2 left in my little thing here. So let's just go ahead and sew this first. Then I can show you what I'm looking at, and then you guys can go ahead and do yours. Alrighty, so. And now don't worry if you have a little bit of blue hanging off the edge or red. Now I've got, this one is fine, but this one has a little bit of red right here on the edge, and that's fine too because we're going to be clipping off that edge. So I'll show you here in a minute. So let's first off, and you're going to want to go real slow. Now if you are scared that when you pull your pin out that your fabric's going to give and not be around that curve, then you can actually use your flywheel to slowly turn it to go over your pin. So when it gets up to the pin, if you're scared to take it out, then don't take it out. Just turn your handle, and when it gets right up against the pin is either going to move to you, or it's going to come away, or it's going to go away from you. Because that's just going to be normal to do that. So I went over that pin without actually going over it with my sewing machine. And then just continue on. Now with my last one, I ended up having to go back over the corner because my corner, somehow when I started out or when I finished, my 1/4 inch was off. So if you got to do that, don't worry about that. I'm going to do one more. And I can see where my needle is. On my last one that I did, I hit my needle one time. Well, I barely hit it. I didn't actually hit it to smack it, and that one actually jumped it. So this is going to take a little bit longer than normally sewing a seam because you don't want to be just zipping on by it. Now, I know that when I first used to do this, I made a, it was called the Drunkard's Path. It's got other names. The first time I did it, and I don't know how, because I did a lot of pinning like this, I ended up with little pleats is the only thing I could think of. Little puckers. For the life of me, I don't know how the heck they got in there. So then I started putting more pins when I do this. So I guess I didn't put enough pins, although I thought I had a whole slew of them. Now, some people that have been doing this for a long, long time and have a lot of practice, they don't even need to put a pin at all. They can literally go around the whole curve and get it done. Hopefully my hands are not going to be in the way here. Now, what I did before I ironed it is all I did was smooth this out a little bit. And I actually ironed it on this side. I just held my fabric and ironed a little bit, but go ahead and set your seam just like before. We want to set our seam. And I set my seam on this side here because it's got all the ridges and everything. This is what you're going to have when you're done. Now, you can measure this block here, and you know that this is the 6.5 by 6.5. Now, when you put this block down, take the one that you made, and when you put it over the top, it totally covers it. So you're going to want to put this one down first, after it's ironed, and then this one. And I take this one here, which is the top square, and I put it up to the corner here. So when I'm looking at this, we're just going to do it both ways. If I do it this way and I cut it off, look, I'm cutting the whole thing off here at the corner. That's wrong because we need this. So then you say to yourself, okay, so I know that's not the right way to do it because we're figuring out how to do it. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put it at the corner over here instead. Now, if you put it in this corner, and I'm just going to give you a for instance, and it ends up looking like this, where it's off, you've got to bring it down, okay? So you're trying to get this side as close to meet and this side over here as close to meet without going off the fabric, because you can always take a little bit off of the edges. So when I do it this way, and you got to make sure that you've got at least the entire thing on there. So here, I've got the whole thing on right like that. But to get it on like that, as you can see here, I got it all. Then I'm going to take that part off, but I'm not taking the whole side off because I don't want to be chopping anything off of here. So I'm bringing it over. This is why that bottom piece is off. And yours might be off differently. And if it is, then you have to do what you got to do for yours. I'm just doing mine, and I'm going to show you here. Now, you need to have a really good eye, so have adequate lighting when you do this. I have a mat, which helps me because I don't have to pick it up. So I go over off of my fabric here. This way I don't have to pick it up. And I come down over that fabric again. And you can be looking down here at the bottom to square this up also. And then I'm going to take this one off here before I take a little bit more off of this other side. Okay. I probably don't need any more. Let's see. I have a little bit more. And I'm squaring up down here at the bottom of this fabric. So a little bit of the blue you can, well, you might not be able to see it, but I can see it hanging over. Now pick this up and this up. Do this. And then the picture shows this way and this way. So when you put them up together like this, they're going to be correct because this is the way that you're going to be sewing them. You're going to sew these 2 units and the other 2 units being, let me see, I think I have, okay, so I have 2 of these made, and that's what I need. I need 1 on the bottom. So let me pull this down a little bit on this, and I'll show you here if in case it's out of the camera. This one goes like that, and this one goes like this. And yes, you lose this because this is going to be in your 1/4 inch, but on the picture it shows right here is where you're going to see the fabric. So don't worry that you're going to lose the, these aren't going to be showing when you get your piece done. Okay, these 2 are joining in the middle like that, and you've got this square here. But you can see that this square here on the top matches that one on the left. See that? Before they're together. But when they're together and they're sewn, you don't see all of this right here. This isn't showing. This is all hidden. This square right here comes up over that and ends up in the corner there like that. Okay, so just take your time when you do it. Now, I'm not going to put this together yet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up the pieces. These pieces right here, I'm going to finish them up and cut them all up so that I've got them stacked up to do. All right, so let's pin another one. First thing you do, put the crease in both sides so that you can mark the middle. And then just start going around the corner here. Hopefully you can see it. My hands don't get in the way here. I got my hand back there to bend it over a little bit. Let's go a little closer to the table here. See if I can. Here's a problem with that, is that I get out of the camera each time. Okay. Keep trying to watch the camera in this too. Keep getting my finger there. See how when I get down here to the end, I'm running out of blue fabric? This is what I was talking about earlier. And I said, don't worry about it because we'll be cutting some of that off. And you might be thinking, if this is the first time you've done this, that you wished it was all the correct size. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is so much easier to have it so that you can actually trim it than it is if it was the correct size. Believe me, because I've done it both ways. This is so much easier when you can cut a little bit of it off. And you're only doing a little bit at a time, because what's happening is it's going straight right here off of the fabric. That's why you have to do a little bit at a time. And this is where you can get a pleat, see, like that. That's why that's the reason for so much pinning. You'll keep that down. This is a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was, because I was really worried that it was going to be hard like other projects I've done, but boy, this is really, really easy. Just gotta keep it in the camera. Well, I don't know if y'all have been thinking about the story. Have you been thinking about it and wondering why did that guy die on the inside? I mean, does anybody know anything about the protection with ancient, I'm going to call it ancient, I guess esophagus? Esophagus? Okay, that's not right. As I laugh myself over here. With ancient tombs. I don't know where the heck that came from. Anyway. So if you know, of course, you know, I was thinking about this between one chapter and the next, because I'm always trying to figure out the darn story. So and I'm trying to think, And there's a whole bunch of reasons that it's the individual that was in there supposed to be protecting this died. I mean, heart attack, food poisoning. I thought of food poisoning because, you know, it's hot in Egypt. So inside this truck is going to be hot. And maybe he had spoiled food. Who knows? You know, he's in there by himself. He didn't have any communication with the outside world. Okay, so it's all pinned. But see how this right here is not matching up? Don't worry about that. Don't give it a thought. Here's the other end. Because remember now, we're going to have to trim this. These are only going down to 6.5 inches. These blocks are like 7. These things right here. All right, so let me back up the camera. I'm going to go ahead and pin my other one because I'm going to do 2 at a time. I've got 4 left, so I'm going to do 2 because that's all I got enough for pins, and then I'll do the other 2, and then I will show you how to make them match that 6.5 inch block. Trim this again. I got 3 of them done here. We're going to take our fabric. I've already ironed this now. And I'm going to put this on there. Like that. Make sure I got enough of each side here. Get my scissors and let's put that a minute. Here we go. And I'm going to trim it. And I am making sure that I am squared on my fabric so there's no distortions. And that's it. Another one. So I am going to set this one aside and do the other 3, and then I will be back and we will join our pieces and we will continue with our story and find out what happened to that guy, how he got murdered. Alrighty, that's what we're going to do. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see here I've got them all pinned like I showed you they were going to go. Remember, we're going to pin these together and these together. So I went ahead and I got them so we can chain stitch them just like that. When we get done, we'll attach those. So let's first go ahead and pin all yours and let's get them sewn. Went ahead and I got a leader ender started there. Let's iron them open. Go ahead and sew these up now that they've been connected. I've got one done, so I'm going to do these 2 here. these apart and iron them. So I've laid them here on the ironing board so you can see them. And I'll put them up here on the design wall. And now I'm going to tell you about the story. I couldn't tell you before. I was all messed up doing this thing. Now, if you don't like the way that this turned out, keep it in mind. Oh, I want to tell you real quick. So this is called the, actually it's called the lotus. So it's one type of desert flower. And if you're not happy with it, let's say that when you finish yours, I'll show you right here. So see how it's a little bit here? Maybe yours is more, or maybe yours is less, and you don't like it. Keep in mind that you can do embroidery on this, as well as you could put a flowering bulb of whatever kind that you wanted off of this with a applique if you wanted to. So don't think that just because the block is done the way that the directions are, that you can't change this block in some way to make it your own block so that you're happy with it. Okay, so let me get over here at the sewing machine, and I'm going to tell you this story about Kitty. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Kitty. Alrighty, so she's supposed to meet up with Dubois at the hotel entrance so they can go into that freezer area in the kitchen and go ahead and get that truck open. Alright, the truck is like I think of it as a step van or one of those armored cars. That's what I was thinking it was. Probably an armored car of some sort. Well, anyway, so she arrives and everybody's already there pacing up and down, and I guess he's got guards with him and all that kind of thing. So they go ahead and they all go in the kitchen to start out with. So they're standing in the kitchen and they're getting ready to go in the freezer, and she's thinking, because they had this CT scan on this truck, that there's something else going on that she's not aware of, that he's not telling her. And she wants to know the whole story before she gets totally involved and finds herself in hot water. So she told him, she says, I think there's something you're not telling me, and if you don't tell me, I'm not going to bother with this. I'm just going to leave. And thanks for the trip. And so he got like ticked off a little bit. So he said, okay. So he sent the guards out of the kitchen. So they're just on the other side of the door. So, you know, you can hear everything through a swinging door. So they're like mumbling to themselves real low and everything. And so she says, so what is up with this CT scan? Because normally you wouldn't do that. And he said that they suspected there was something else in that vehicle other than that mummy's body. So she goes, well, what do you think is in it? And he goes, well, he said, first off, the CT scan was going to be because the guy who was on the inside had a walkie-talkie. So they figured, well, the walkie-talkie just probably died and he had no way to talk to them. But then when, I guess they did some kind of infrared or something, but they couldn't determine body heat, so that's why they decided to do the CT. Well, not only did it show the body in there, which had no heat coming out of it, so as far as they were concerned, that man was dead. They didn't know how he died. There were other things in there. And so he got excited because they're, I don't know what the words are, the items that were in there, it's those little, they're little statues. And if you've seen any kind of movies or you've read anything about artifacts and things like that, they had these little, they're like little, I want to call them statues. They're usually made out of stone or ivory or something like that. And they're, I can't think of the name of them, but they normally would have protected the body in the tomb. And then they had, which I did not realize was real. I watched it on that program, cannot think of the actor's name, but if you ever saw The Mummy, and it was Mummy, there was The Mummy 1 and The Mummy 2. I can't think of who the characters were. Usually when I watch those TV shows, I'm not even thinking at all that some of the stuff that they come up with is based on true things. I'm thinking in my mind it's just all made up stories. Well, reading this chapter in this book right here makes me realize that some of that stuff is true. So, you know, if you watch that movie, or if you didn't, you probably oughta. Those little scarabs or scabs or whatever they're called, the little bugs that were, they made me think of the little beetles that we have out there today with the multicolors on their backs that are green. They got the green and black and it looks like fluorescent on them. Okay, so those little things, well, they're not little, they're bigger back in that day, but they have little, I guess they were made little containers and they put those things in them. All right. Well, those were to protect the mummy. so that people would not steal from the mummy, because things were buried with mummies for them to go into the Everland. Well, anyway, so along with these little bitty statues, that was in there, but they discovered that there was, it's another thing that's in there that is hollow. And when they're hollow, the reason for that is that they take the organs of the person that died and they put them in these jars, and then they go with them to heaven. Well, that also was discovered in this thing. Well, they didn't want to open this van out into the desert because, you know, if they opened that and nobody saw them open it, they might have, the authorities and everything would think that somebody switched the contents and that this was fake stuff in there instead of the real thing. And he's, not bankrolling, he's betting his life work that this is real. Okay, so this is going to put his name on the map, more or less. And there are so many people out there with money that want to get their hands on this kind of stuff. So this is why everything was hush-hush and nobody knows anything about it. Well, they get ready to, she says, in that case, we need to document it. So now all of a sudden they hear commotion going on out on the other side of the door. So she's listening and she hears her assistant, Marianne. Now remember, Marianne's her, I want to call her social assistant. It's the one that does all the social networking for her. So that means she's going to have a camera and all kinds of stuff. Well, they need her for like a witness. So she opens up the door, she pulls the girl in there, and the guy said it was okay. Dubois must have nodded his head to those guys to let her pass. She gets in and she goes, well, do you have your phone, your camera, whatever? And she goes, well, yeah, I always have that. And then Dubois has a fancy camera. And she says, or Kitty says, let her have your camera. So she looks it over and she goes, do you think you can work it? And she goes, well, I'm a photographer. I guess I could work it. And so then she goes ahead, checks it all out and everything. And he goes, well, what are you doing? And she says, we need documentation, because once those doors are open, we don't want anybody to think that we've done anything, let alone kill the guy. Okay, they have to document that he actually is dead in there when it gets open. So she checks out the lock, finds out it's a little bit different than the normal ones that she picks. So on the inside of this vehicle, the lock is where the big thing comes down over the door and locks it like that. So this thing has to be lifted at the same time that the front door gets opened up. So she was trying to figure out how to do that, because the way she'd done it before wasn't going to work on this vehicle. So she figured it out. She gives them some kind of wire or something so that they're pulling on it, which means that once she gets the door unlocked, it'll move this lever up. This lever will go up and this thing will go up, and then they can get the door open. So they go ahead and do it. It clicks, it opens up, and the first thing they see, of course, is the individual that was in there, which was a man, is slumped over on a wooden crate. So they figured, okay, he died. Now it's a matter of, how did he die? So she's looking at him. In the meantime, Dubois is behind her retching. And so she's not sure if it's because this is the first time we've seen a dead body or what it is. But she lets him be. She's looking in there, and she looks at him, and she's thinking, well, he looks weird. Although he's slumped over, she took a look at him, and now she's checked. She made sure she had her gloves on before she touches anything, because she doesn't want to mess anything up. It looks like he opened up a crate that was inside this truck with him. And you know that, not tissue paper, but that like straw kind of stuff was in it. So it was like a packing, okay? So it's skewed out all over, like he must have opened it up and started pulling all of it out. And then something got him, and then he slumped over. So, of course, the first thing I'm thinking of is, like that movie, The Mummy, there was, there's like, what's it called? Some kind of protection against people stealing mummies. A long time ago, they put like poison, I'm going to say poison, like poison gases. Like if you opened it up, now in this show, as soon as you slid the two things apart like this, you slid it across, that's when the poison gas would come out and it would kill you immediately. Well, in that movie that I watched, that's exactly what happened. So, of course, she's looking to see if she can see anything, and then she sees white stuff above his lip. So she's thinking, okay, well, he was in the heat, then he was in the freezer, so he probably got like frost on him. But then she looks around and she sees it's like down on this crate thing. So she takes a little bit closer look, and it looks like it's actually spread out on it. So whatever this white powder stuff is, it probably killed him because he got into something he shouldn't have. Probably just out of pure curiosity. I doubt that he did it for any other reason. I mean, curiosity killed the cat, and apparently it killed this guy too. So that was the end of that chapter, which kind of leaves us hanging because now we're trying to figure out what it is. And she hasn't touched anything because she's, since she's the anthropologist, she's all into leaving everything exactly like it is until she can do a lot of examining. So I'm pretty sure she's going to have Mary Jane take a whole slew of pictures before they touch anything. And of course then Dubois is going to is going to get done with his issue over there in the corner. And right now they're trying to keep everything quiet so those people that are on the outside that kitchen door don't come running through. It's sort of like messing up a crime scene, although it's in a truck and a freezer. But so that was it for that story. Now I hope that you guys learned something by making this block here about curves. And I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else. But I'm looking forward to the next chapter and the next project. And I really like the way these blocks are really, really big. So notice that the first month we had 1 block. The second month we had 2 blocks. The third month we have 3 blocks. So do you think we're going to have 4 blocks on month 4? I mean, hopefully it doesn't go up to making that many blocks because these are pretty good sized blocks. So I hope everybody had fun and enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to catch any videos I put out. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.